Become a wealth creator today. Text VISIT to 800-454-1184 to schedule your 15-minute call with Eric and his team. That's VISIT to 800-454-1184.
More than half of all Americans turning 65 today will develop a disability that's serious enough to require long-term care, which could potentially be a big expense that impacts you. So we want to help you prepare for this, and that's what we're going to be talking about today on our show. Thanks for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Eric and his team at Heckman Financial are right here in the Silicon Valley area, and he has been helping people have remarkable retirements for over 30 years now. He's a certified financial planner, and it's his goal to help 1,001 people retire by 2031. Here's the phone number that we want you to use for our show today, 800-454-1184. You may call or text this number, 800-454-1184. If you text the number, text the word toolbox, you'll get Eric's book, Blueprint to Worryless Wealth, plus some other educational materials. Just text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, and find us online anytime at wealthcreatorradio.com. And Eric, hello to you.
Yeah, hey, Luann. It's a good topic to be talking about, for in terms of long-term care.
Yep.
It's one of those things that really none of us want to ever talk about.
No.
So it's also a tough one because it's something that I think is probably the number one planning process is the ostrich plan. Stick your head in the sand and just don't do anything, and that's not the right plan at all.
No, it is not. So over half of Americans 65 and older have some type of a serious illness. 80% of adults who are getting long-term care at home, they're relying on their family and their friends. I know people who have done that as well. I have, friends, acquaintances who have quit work to take care of their parents. And that's the other thing. About 90% of family caregivers are having to quit work. And switching maybe to part-time. And that's in the stats, too. Around 40% of caregivers had to switch from working full-time to part-time. So your reaction to all of this?
Yeah, well, it's pretty good evidence that people, don't really have a plan, right? I had somebody I worked with years ago, and she was like an office machine kind of salesperson, right? Doing the fancy copiers and all that type of stuff. And I'm pretty sure she was 100% commission, or maybe she had a little bit of a base, but not much. And, one of her parents got sick, then the other one got sick, and they didn't want to, have to go in any facility. So they had round the clock caregivers, but she had to also keep going in there. Well, she didn't have any time to do any sales. She's single. She was in her late 50s at the time, and she was using up all of her time and not making any money pretty much to help them. And they were burning through their assets at the same time. And when they finally passed away, she did not inherit much money, or anything, because they'd spent most of the assets. And then she was several years older and with no money because she hadn't been working and putting money away for retirement. So yeah, it kind of hurt both generations. And so that's one of the things that you have to really watch for is you need to have some sort of plan for this.
For so many of us, we don't really know how to address long-term care. So let's go over questions that you can tell us we need to be thinking about right now.
I think most people kind of know what's the issue, right? At some point, they may not be able to physically do everything they can today. There's this fancy term called activities of daily living. And once you can't do 2 of those 6 activities of daily living, you're going to need some sort of care. And there's really only 3 ways to do it. One is, you self-insure, which is what most people are doing. They have no plan. They might be intentionally self-insuring, but typically, nope, they're just self-insuring by default, which means you're using up your own assets. And, the other one is you can buy the traditional long-term care insurance. But the problem with that is, oh my gosh, there used to be a bunch of companies that said we've never had a rate increase. Now they've all had monster rate increases. Probably the biggest one I've seen was 267% over 3 years.
Good grief.
Tripling your, and of course, when do you get that rate increase? When you're in your late 70s or 80s, and you're more likely to need the care. So you can't really do much about it. The third type is either annuities or life insurance that are specially designed that give you extra benefits. These I like because of the insurance company can't do anything to you. Once you have one of these, all the benefits are set in stone. They can't go around and mess around with anything or change any of the requirements and ask for extra money or anything like that. And and that's to me one of the biggest issues is those you need to have some help. And the scariest part is really the case where, say it's a couple just starts retirement, one of them gets ill all of a sudden, burns through. Right now it's about $100,000 a year. It's about $9,000, $10,000 a month. And if they burn through that money, for 3, 4, 5 years, that other spouse, the healthy spouse, after the one that's ill passes away, could live another 20 years, but with maybe $500,000 less in savings. That is going to massively change their entire, course of their retirement. So, again, this is something where you want to have some details. You want to have some information on it. And, one of the things we did set up here is a digital toolbox that has a lot of great data. Will your money last as long as you? Are you paying too much in taxes in retirement? But also it has a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, which has a section on the long-term care issues. And if you want to set a time to meet. So all you have to do to get that whole access to that digital toolbox is text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
This is something that Eric and his team have worked so hard for you on. And so this is something he's offering to you complimentary. Make sure you take advantage of this. We tell you about it, but make sure you put this number in your phone and take action, because that's why Eric and his team are here, to guide you about retirement. This is Wealth Creator Radio. That number again, 800-454-1184. Text the word toolbox. We're making it that simple for you. And then remember, check them out online at wealthcreatorradio.com. That's wealthcreatorradio.com. All right, so Eric, we talk about long-term care and high cost of health care in retirement. Walk us through how that fits into your retirement income strategy.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's like I said before, if one person gets ill and the other one lasts 20 years longer, I mean, yeah, that's going to massively affect that care, right? So we do have to have that built in. You just have to have normal healthcare costs too, right? Just not just the premiums, but I mean, dental insurance. I mean, I've had clients that, the dental insurance is so bad in retirement. I have one client that said, when I die, you better have these teeth on display to her kids, because, she had $28,000 in her mouth. And, so you have to, account for the healthcare costs, but especially for the long-term care costs, how are you going to do it? Are you going to spend down all your assets? That's can be fine if you're single, but if you're married, it's really tough to do. And so then you have to plan out, how's that drawdown going to affect your overall situation, and are you going to have some other money to still be able to be retired, still be able to enjoy life and do things, right? I mean, obviously it's a huge difference if something happens in your 60s or 70s versus your 80s or 90s, right? So having some sort of protection for at least part of it. You don't have to insure all of it. You still get Social Security, you still have some money coming in the door, even if you're, ill. But, at right now, about $9,000 to $10,000 a month in costs. Yeah, you need to have, you need to have something there, right? And, we can't prevent bad things from happening, but you can have a plan, right? And that's, to me, that's the biggest thing is we all have a plan. It's either self-insure, traditional long-term care insurance, which is going up like crazy, or some of these alternative asset types of insurance products. And those are my favorite to do, having something in there just to protect you. So, again, if you want a little bit more information and you want to get details on that, you can set a time or just look at our entire digital toolbox at the Wealth Creator Toolbox by texting the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Get your plan in place now with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. We'll be right back with more of Wealth Creator Radio.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio.
And that's how it's done.
That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, who is president of Heckman Financial. And it happens every year in our country. And, I see it all the time. Orange cones or roadblocks because they're working on our highways or our roads, right? And giving us detours about, we have to go here or there. And then it adds time because we weren't even planning on it. So I'm seeing potholes everywhere. I want to talk to you about potholes. The potholes in retirement that are lurking out there, posing risks to that retirement, Eric.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them. And, there's a couple that everybody always knows about, right? So taxes.
Yes.
So yikes, right? And that's stuff we don't want to pay. How do we avoid it legally? And, so that'd be one. The other one, of course, is just stock market volatility. And when, those things drop and go down. But really, the volatility is not as critical as will that money last as long as I do, right? Type of thing in retirement. So that's always probably the number one fear for people is just running out of money. And, there's other stuff, of course, that always happens, right? Government changes the laws, all these other fun things that, the rules change, the products change, the economics change, right? So it's just one of those things where you have to be kind of always fixing stuff, just like no different than the roads, right?
Yeah.
You have to be out there sometimes with your own crew and fixing that, or just knowing that you have to maybe go a different way than you planned, and it might take a little longer, but as long as you're heading still to the right destination, as long as you're on track somewhat, even if you're detoured, then you're going to get there, right?
Yeah. Have you ever hit a pothole, like actually hit it and your tire went in it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so maddening. One time I did that. I was 16, though, so I was kind of a new driver. And I hit this pothole that I knew was there. And I was like, whoa, when not paying attention. And my wheel came off. Went rolling down the road. It was like freaked me out. I had to pull over and run down and get that tire. I had to call my dad. It was a mess. So yeah, we don't want potholes like that ruining our retirement. And like you said, we've got to kind of stay on track. They give us detours and everything to help us avoid, the mess on the roads, but we do need to stay on track. And speaking of that, when we go on road trips, we try to stay on track because we're looking at a map, right? We use that map for retirement. And yours, in your company, you guys call it a blueprint, right? A blueprint for retirement. How many people actually leave their jobs without that map for retirement, Eric?
Wow, yeah, that'd be kind of crazy to do. Hopefully not too many have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's a little tough. I mean, when I rode 50 miles in all 50 states, or even when I went across to Canada and did 100 kilometers in all the provinces.
Yep.
Every time I would start out with some sort of map and route, and pretty much almost every single time, with maybe one or two exceptions, the route never worked.
Oh.
So there was always something.
Yep.
Sometimes it could be, construction. Sometimes, when it did the California coast, actually, we almost every day had a flagman where you had the one-way thing going on and stuff. And, because we hit a lot of construction. And, I remember in, what was that? Louisiana. Yeah, there was a down power line. So I had to definitely go around
scary.
that.
Yeah.
So, so there's always going to be something that's gonna reroute you. But, sometimes it's also makes it more interesting, more challenging, right? And so, but if you have that end destination still, if you have that overall goal, you're going to be fine. But if you retire without any sort of clue, well, how much should you be spending a month? How many vacations can you take? These are things you need to know, right? How much is that monthly amount supposed to be? Because if you spend too much and then all of a sudden you don't have enough when you're 70 or 75, that's not very good either. So, the way we solve that really is having that income plan that tells you, am I on the right track? Am I going the right way? What detours have I hit? And am I still okay for the end destination. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to know is know those basic parameters of what's working and what won't work in retirement. So then that way, what you should and shouldn't be doing.
I remember going on vacations with my dad. He and my mom and dad and my sisters. We had the station wagon, and we'd go cross country because my dad was an elementary school principal. So we would take like 3-week long vacations. And of course, my favorite one was to California. I loved it. We went to Disneyland out there, and I loved California. But anyway, my dad would, have that map, that Atlas road map.
Oh, yeah, the big book. Yeah.
Yeah, the big one. McNally, maybe, or something like that. Yeah. And so he would, my dad was really precise and had this yellow highlighter and where we were going to stop for all the KOA campgrounds that we had to stay at. So I totally remember that and how fun it was to help him find the right highway and all that. So I totally know what it means to have a roadmap for a vacation. But you're talking about this roadmap for retirement. And you mentioned, you talk about an income plan, right? And how much they need to spend monthly. But what else goes into that roadmap? Or in your case, you call it a blueprint. What else goes into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the first things you have to figure out is what is that spending number? And it's a number that everybody lies to themselves about of how much they spend. First, I always tell people do the no BS budget, which is just take your last 12 months checking account, add up all the withdrawals, and divide that by 12. So that's all the money you took out from your account. And if you're paying off your credit card from that account, you don't need to look at your credit card statement. It's there. And, that's the number. And so if you're living on that number in retirement, first of all, where's that money going to come from? So yeah, that's why you have to have that income plan. And you have to know where that money's going to come from. Is it going to grow with inflation? What's then going to put that money out? That's where you have to look at the investments, right? And how is that money invested? Is it now invested for income, not just growth? Because when you're working, you just want it to grow. Now you got to take money out. So you got to, kind of change direction on that money. And then, of course, what's the tax ramifications of all those withdrawals? What types of money is that? Is it Roth? Is it taxable money? Is it 401k, IRA? All those different types have different tax effects and affect your overall plan. Of course, healthcare comes up, right? We're all going to get sick at some point and such. So Medicare, long-term care, all those kind of questions need to be asked. And then, of course, who gets your money when you're gone? So those are the 5 areas of the blueprint to worry less wealth. And, you need to have a plan for all 5, and it has to be a coordinated plan, just like, you being in the car, driving to California, right across the road trip. And you not only need that map, but you got to make sure that you got fuel in the car, you got air, the tires working, all that stuff, right? It's more than just having a map, right? You have to have all the pieces of the puzzle working. So, yeah. And that's what we do here at Heckman Financial. And so one of the things is we've set up a lot of great tools to talk about that. Like, will your money last as long as you do? Are you paying too much in taxes in retirement? These are quick little reads that you can download, the Social Security decision. And also, if you want to get a digital version of my book, Worry Less Wealth, you can get that all at our Wealth Creator Toolbox. It's super easy to get it. All you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And this is Wealth Creator Radio with my friend Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. We're talking about retirement and how there are risks in retirement. Should we be invested differently in retirement than when we were working, Eric?
Oh, well, certainly, because, like I said, you need to be having that money pay you stuff, not just grow. So,
right.
So when you're working, doesn't matter where the money comes from, dividends, interest, capital gains, just growth. But most people, when I look at their portfolio, it yields like 1% to 2%, meaning the dividends that pay out is very small. Well, if you need to be taking out 4%, that means, you might be having to sell off 2 or 3% of your assets every year. And you can't wait for the market to come back. Once you sell those, you lock in that loss or lock in that gain. And so, yeah, you need to have it very different. You need to have some money that's guaranteed, some foundational money that won't go away. You need to have some steady income monies that's low volatility that pays you dividends and cash flow. So that way you can just easily withdraw it without selling stuff. And then, of course, you need that market money for long-term growth. That's the stocks and bonds and everything else. So, yeah, you need to have a mix of all three of those. But yeah, you cannot invest the same way as what you were doing beforehand.
And neither can you invest the same way as your neighbor, right? Or a family member. I want you to talk about why you guys help people come up with a customized plan for them, and tell us why that's so important for everybody who retires to have that customized plan.
Yeah, well, we're all different. We all have different goals and, things that we want to achieve. Of course, you have different balances, different types of assets, and different tax ramifications. So, yeah, it needs to be customized. It needs to be really built around your situation, your tax ramifications, what long-term gains, how everything's allocated, right? So that's why you have that really customized blueprint to worry less wealth. Again, if you want to get those resources in the digital toolbox, it's easy, super simple. Or if you want to even set up a time to meet with me, Eric Heckman, all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
You know how guardrails are on a bridge to keep you from tumbling over the edge? We're going to talk about how to put some of those guardrails on your retirement coming up next with Eric. This is Wealth Creator Radio, and we'll be right back.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi, we're so glad to have you with us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. You know, the guardrails that are on a bridge, when you go over those bridges, they're there, right? To keep you from, number one, being scared, and number two, from tumbling over the edge in case something happened. You just feel more confident, right? Eric, how do we get that kind of confidence with our retirement plan?
Yeah, well, speaking of those guardrails, so when, what was that, in 21, my son and my youngest son, Aiden, and I rode the California coast. We were just north of the Golden Gate a little bit, and in one section, and it was out by this place called Fort Ross, and there was those old things that they did back in the 30s, the work programs when depression hit, and so they had these guardrails that were maybe knee high. I don't know, but it was about an 800-foot drop straight down to the water. And he typically he was more scared of the cars. That section he was riding pretty much almost on the yellow line because he did not want anything to do it. And plus it was super windy, so the wind was not fun.
Oh, you guys.
And so yeah, I mean it is definitely can be a little hair raising to not have those safety features, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen that with people in their retirement plan where they'll it's not quite deer in the headlights, but it's almost there, right? Where they're so scared to go do anything or spend their money, they don't have a good retirement because they haven't figured out a plan. They haven't looked at stuff. And, often I meet with the adult children of these people that are having these issues. And it's just awful because it's like, go have fun, go do those trips. And almost always those adult children say, why don't my parents go anywhere? And then the parents say, well, we're saving this money for them. We just don't want to run out and, all these things. So yeah, a lot of times it's just because people aren't talking or really having a plan. And so, yeah, once you have that plan, once you know, hey, this money's going to last, I'm actually going to be okay. So yeah, I can go do that, Machu Picchu trip or that European river cruise or, whatever that dream trip is. Yeah, you can actually go do it and have fun. But yeah, without having the confidence and knowing where your guardrails are, yeah, it can be very hair raising.
Exactly. That sounds so scary. I think I'd have been walking my bike. I really do. So here's some things in retirement that can really send your retirement assets over the edge: longevity, health care costs, and of course, taxes. Of those, Eric, is one of those more important than another to have a guardrail there to protect us?
Well, you really should do all three. So, taxes can be somewhat planned for, right? But also you never know because tax laws change. So that one can be a tough one to fully plan for. One of the easiest ways is just put more money in a Roth and get rid of the taxes. So that could be one way to solve that one, I guess a little bit more permanently. Healthcare, of course, you just have to have it, right? So staying active and being healthy in retirement is going to help you. But yeah, making sure you're covered there. But longevity is a tough one. I mean, longevity, that the only way to do that, I know, to protect against that is have some foundational money, have some money that's guaranteed that'll be there for the rest of your life, and have an income plan. So I think that's probably the one that's probably more critical to plan for, because that one. Yeah, that one's just making sure your money lasts. Obviously, taxes affects how long it lasts too, right?
Yeah.
So the two of them are a little bit intertwined, and even healthcare is obviously part of longevity. So yeah, having a plan for really all of those should be the main goal.
Sure. I mean, you kind of mentioned this already, but how we can safeguard our savings from volatility and the threat of any downturns in the market. I know that's something that you and your team focus on.
Yeah, well, if you look back, you think about, if you can remember back to the 70s.
I can.
But yeah, we had two back-to-back bad years there. We had two back-to-back bad years after the dot-com crash in the early 2000s. But on average, we only have usually one bad year, but every decade usually has two of those bad years. So if you think about going forward in retirement, most people are going to be retired ideally for 30 years. And so that means you're going to have on average, 6 bad years out of that retirement time frame. Are those going to be early on? Are they going to be towards the end? Who knows, right? And so that's why you definitely need to have some money protected from that volatile situation. And you can't just do the old mantra, just hang in there or wait for it to come back. You need money next month, right? You can't just
wait.
You can't wait. The property tax person's not going to say, oh no, it's fine. You don't have to pay us this month, or your mortgage, or even your grocery bill, right? So you need that money coming in every single month, unless you have a huge pension and great Social Security. Typically, people need more money than just those two. So yeah, you need to have some money that's in foundational money, stuff that's guaranteed from loss, stuff that's, going to be there in and out every year. And, that's one way to protect some of that. The other one is what we always use is about 10 to 20% of people's portfolio is steady income stuff. And that's things that, ideally pay around 6 to 10% in dividends. And that cash flow is coming in every single month or every quarter. And so that cash is sitting there to be sent out to you, right? So, there are some ways to do that. But if you're 100% in stocks and bonds, like a 401k is, oh man, it's just, what's the least painful thing to sell is basically what the math that most people do. And that's not what I ever want to have, my clients in that situation. So that's why we don't let them get in that situation, and we diversify those funds. So, again, we've got some great tools, literally a quick download of Will Your Money Last As Long As You Do? Pretty timely.
Love it. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
And then, are you paying too much in taxes in retirement? Another good one to look at. And even the Social Security's decision, when should you turn that on and all that stuff, along with a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even a spot to request a 15 to 30 minute phone call with me, Eric Heckman. All you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, you can text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or you can download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And remember, all this is complimentary, okay? And who knows? You might discover some weak points in your retirement plans, make some small tweaks that can really make a difference in your income in retirement. So take advantage of this. Eric and his team have worked really hard on this toolbox, and it's working for people. So take them up on that. That's their goal for you, to help you. And we thank you so much for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Luann Fulmer, and we're talking about just retirement and risks in retirement. How about this one? How much of an impact can inflation have on our retirement savings? We're certainly seeing that now.
Yeah, well, I had a client named Beth. She was meeting with me, and she's been retired for over 10 years. And she's always got this fear that, she'll have to be on the streets with a shopping cart. So she's always looking at a Costco shopping cart because they're bigger.
They're bigger.
Yeah. But, I mean, she's half joking and half very serious. And one of the things that she was telling me that she says, you got to make sure people understand that I am spending twice as much as I was 10 years ago when I first started in retirement. And she's taking some trips, so she's doing some fun, but she's not doing, crazy expensive stuff, right? And, it's just normal inflation. Things get more expensive. So if you're not planning on that money that you have coming in monthly getting bigger and bigger, you're going to have an issue, right? And of course, taxes are going to be a big piece of that. As you get older and older, you've typically got less and less non-taxable money. And so then you're going to keep paying more and more tax. And so that's one of our things that we look at is when we're doing that income plan for someone, we actually look at their lifetime taxes, their cumulative tax that they're on track to pay for. And how can we lower that? I mean, we had one client where they had a whole bunch of money in a CD, and just by moving it to a tax deferred account that actually paid the same exact interest, or probably actually pay a little higher, but I just, for apples to apples, we kept it the same. It was going to lower their cumulative tax by over $150,000.
Oh my gosh.
And just one simple little thing like that, can make a huge swing in your overall, situation, right? Because more money is the only way to really combat inflation. And one way to have more money is pay less in tax on the assets that you already have. So, that's one of the things that we want to do is we want to have a plan. We want to know how to build that blueprint to worry less wealth. We want to be able to have that plan for income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. So again, if that's something you want to set a time for, easy way to do is if you want to just set up a phone call with me, Eric Heckman, all you got to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we'll be right back with more from Eric. This is Wealth Creator Radio. Stick around.
Imagine your first day of retirement. What do you see? Let's turn that vision into reality. The first step, get Eric Heckman's Wealth Creator Toolbox. In it, you'll get information on some of the biggest challenges you'll face in retirement. Request your Wealth Creator Toolbox now by texting the word Toolbox to 800-454-1184. That's Toolbox to 800-454-1184.
Hi, we're so glad to have you with us today. Thank you so much. I'm Luann Fulmer, and Eric, I know you get questions all the time about retirement or specific questions regarding issues in retirement. So we're going to take this time now and dig into our Wealth Creator mailbag, and I'm going to ask you some common retirement questions. I'm sure you get these all the time, but we're going to do it on the air right now, okay?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay, first question is from Lily. Aw. Okay. She says, we're getting a divorce after almost 30 years of marriage. I've been working outside the home for the last 5 years, so I'm happy to have work friends and some income of my own, but I really feel like I'm starting all over and I don't even know what questions to ask first. What are some things I should be considering when planning for my future, Eric?
Yep. No, it's always a tough one. You have that gray divorce, as they like to call it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing that you do get, no matter what, is when you've been married more than 10 years, you still get spousal support from Social Security, meaning you get half of your ex's Social Security benefit, even regardless of when they turn it on. So that's a little bit nicer there.
Yeah.
But really, it's just having an income plan, seeing how you're going to do these assets. Typically in divorce, you get some of the retirement accounts, or maybe get the house or whatever, depending on how things were divided up. Yeah, you're going to have to kind of reset everything, right? And figure out, what's my income plan going to be? Am I going to stay around here? Am I going to move? Because lots of times if you end up getting the house, is it a big old house that you don't need anymore, right? So you might need to downsize. So, but really just kind of going through the whole process, right? Getting that income plan, figuring out, will that money last for the rest of your life? Look at the investments. Are they geared towards that income? And then what's the tax ramifications along the way? So, yep, definitely time to get some planning going.
Okay, very good. And of course, Eric, I know you deal with this a lot. You deal with single women and you deal with couples. So you can always put this number in your phone, 800-454-1184. Eric and his team would love to guide you personally. Another question. This one's from Jake, and he's asking or saying, my wife and I are having some serious discussions about what we want to do in retirement. I've traveled with my work for years, so I just want some peace and quiet and time to go fishing. My wife stayed at home to raise our two sons. She's been telling all our friends about all the places we'll go once I retire. I'm done traveling for good, but I don't know how to tell her. Any tips?
Yeah, well, you definitely do want to sit down and figure out what you guys want to be doing in retirement. And, maybe she goes on some, she gets a friend who she likes to travel with.
Yeah.
My aunt's done that for years with just a friend of hers that they like to go places, and, they'll get the group tours and stuff to make it easy. And that's one thing. If you want to have quiet time and go fishing, well, she could travel to Alaska and do fishing up there. Right?
Ooh, look at that. Yeah.
So maybe you have to just tie the two together. But no, it is something that I think not enough people actually talk about all that stuff about what you want to do and how do you picture your ideal weekend, what's your ideal week, and kind of then translate that to retirement and make sure you guys are somewhat on the same page, or you at least figure out a way to both get what you want, right?
Yeah, compromise,
Yep.
I mean, that's what marriage is all about anyway. So, yeah, you both have your own interests, but try to figure that out.
Yeah, and so, I mean, one of the things that we do have is we do have a lot of tools in our digital toolbox that people can go get. And with the digital toolbox, we've got things like, will my money last as long as I do in retirement? Am I paying too much in taxes? When should I turn on Social Security? Even a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even a link to set a time to talk with me, and we'll talk one-on-one, no cost, no obligation for 15, 30 minutes, find out what you're worried about, what concerns you have, and go over all these things. Now, I might not be able to tell you how to talk better to your spouse, but at least we can talk about the money stuff and at least open up those discussion lines. But if you want to get any of that information, all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Yeah. Eric is a well-known speaker and author. He wrote that book, Worry Less Wealth. He's been president of Heckman Financial for the past 30 years now. And man, I bet you, Eric, you could kind of give them some advice, right? Bring up some ideas that other couples have done in retirement.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Yeah. So.
All right. So again, this is Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric. All right. Digging into our mailbag. Here's a question from Sid. And he asked, what's the best kind of annuity to buy? I don't want a bunch of stuff, just one simple place to keep my money.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the annuities, it's kind of like two types of annuities. Do you want income? Do you want money coming out of it? Or do you just want to, like sounds like he almost says, is just keeping the money there? And then, of course, what type of money, right? So is it regular money or is it retirement money? So yeah, the first part would be is if you're just having it store there, just to keep the money growing. Typically nowadays, you really want the indexed kind of annuities. I mean, the rates have gotten so great, but with the indexed kind, you get a rate based on the stock market growth. So they'll look at the S&P from today, from a year ago, and pay you whatever the percentage increase up to a maximum. And lots of times those could be sometimes double the earnings rate of a fixed rate annuity. So it can be a great way to build money and have that grow. If you're talking about regular dollars, meaning non-IRA money, then that money even grows tax deferred. So you won't get that 1099 at the end of the year that you have to pay taxes on. When you have that money in the bank, I mean, I've run into some people. Actually, I had one couple in particular. They had sold a piece of property, they had thrown it in the bank. And when we ran the numbers out over 20 years, they would pay $200,000 in taxes on the interest from that money, and they were probably never going to touch it. I was like,
oh no,
well, we could just move this to annuity, have it be tax deferred. And so, I mean, when they take the money out, they'll have to pay some tax on it, but more than likely that'll be their kids. So, hey, they're going to still get more than they have to pay tax on, right? So just deal with it. But the other kind, are ones where they have income for life. So that's ones where they have some provision, just like Social Security or pension, where it says it will pay you for as long as you live. The neat thing about this is even if it's an individual retirement account, it can be paid on a joint life basis. And so that money will keep going. And we even have a company right now that'll double that income if you need long-term care. And for both spouses, up to 5 years each. And so, so there's some great options out there. It's just, you have to have somebody who's reputable, who knows from a fiduciary standpoint, what's in your best interest, what makes sense. And, that's why a lot of people call us and get together with us to go over that. But definitely can be a great source for money today, and something people should really be looking at.
Yeah, definitely look into that. And if you have your own questions about annuities, 800-454-1184, because like Eric said, they're different now, and it might be a good time to look into that. So here is another question from our mailbag from Diana. And she says, my mother just died, and now I feel like all our family does is argue over what to do with her house and who will take care of what. My siblings and I are all in our 60s now, but it feels like we're children again. I don't know if you can help us with our arguments, but could you just tell people why it's so important to take care of these decisions ahead of time?
Yep, exactly. So it's amazing how well people get together when somebody's alive and then somebody passes away, and dynamics shift and change. And often for people having, inheriting stuff, sometimes not even the siblings, sometimes it's the sibling spouses that kind of wreak havoc or something. And you should really, look at that. One of the things that California got rid of was they used to have that great thing where you could keep your parents' property tax basis. Now you can keep part of it, but lots of times it gets reassessed, and you have to be your primary residence and all this stuff. So I find most people will just sell the house now, just because property tax wise doesn't make sense. It's income tax wise, it's tax free to sell it because you inherit it. You get a step up in basis, meaning, if your parents paid $100,000 for it, you sell it for $1 million. There's no taxes to you.
Wow.
All magically disappears when somebody dies. So, lots of times it makes more sense just to sell it. But if somebody really wanted to live there, how do they buy the other people out? What's the timeline? I had one case where years ago where it was a house that was valued back then at $800,000. 4 siblings inherited it. Well, one was living there with the parents. She wanted to stay. The other one was getting divorced, so he moved in. But then he couldn't refinance because he was getting a divorce. So it took 2 years for him to buy out his other 2 siblings, which were very upset about the whole issue, right? So it's good to have a process to talk about it ahead of time. But, again, you want to have a plan for all this stuff. And so you need to have that plan for that income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. That's the 5 areas of the blueprint to worry less wealth. And, we've got that and a lot more in our digital toolbox that you can download. So definitely get a link for that. You got a lot of great information there, and even a way to set up a time with me, Eric Heckman. So all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we are not done yet. We're coming back for another segment. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Don't go away.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. Take his checklist challenge. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. See if you've got it right. Take the checklist challenge today. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi, we're so glad to have you along with us today. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. And we have come to the time in our show now when Eric gives us a wealth success story. And this is always a really good example of what some retiree or retirees have done where it's worked out the best for them. So that's why we call it a wealth success story. So, Eric, we're always in for some good news. What do you have for us?
Yeah, Luann. So this is about client Mark and Linda, and there's somebody actually that I worked with for quite some time, and he'd originally been in high tech, but then wanted to, I guess, follow his passion or what he really cared about, and he took a job as managing a church, being the business manager, and obviously not. No stock options, right? No other high end stuff. But and then she mostly worked as volunteer coordinator, other things, but didn't make tons of money. So they're not the typical Silicon Valley type people, but they just kept saving, kept putting money away, and they have 2 daughters, and one had a set of grandkids, and as so many people do, they go, where do I want to be? Someplace where I don't have my grandkids or someplace near my grandkids. And they pick the grandkids. Mm-hmm. I would say probably at least a quarter, maybe even a third of my clients end up moving to where the grandkids are. Mm-hmm. And I would say none of them planned that when they were working. So, it's one of those things that you don't even think about ahead of time, really, because you may have not even had grandkids, and your kids may not even been married, right? When you're doing some of these plannings stuff. So, and they were in Pennsylvania, so they ended up, selling the house here, and they very wisely first rented it over there, which is. I always recommend first for people to do, just because of then you get kind of a feel for the area. Mm-hmm. You get to know, where you want to be and where traffic is, all those fun little things, right? Mm-hmm. And then they bought a house and paid a little bit more than they planned, but we figured it out. We were able to, get enough out of their accounts and stuff. And now they've got a paid off, nice big house that they've always wanted. They've finally got it all furnished because they pretty much gave away all their furniture and didn't move hardly anything, which most people do today also. Huh. And, and so now they're, all set. And since they don't have that mortgage, since they don't have that cost anymore, and those extra proceeds from the house sale from here, not only paid off that house over there, but, gave them a little bit of extra spending money. And now we're able to, have them get by, but they didn't have tons of money. They weren't, uber, rich or, anything by any standards, but they're living the life that they really wanted to. And now they're with their grandkids and their daughter too, I guess. Yeah. But, should probably include her.
Yeah. We always kind of substitute and go to the grandkids first.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's the nice thing. So, the main reason I wanted to point that out is you don't have to necessarily have tons of money. You can always figure out a way to do it. It just takes some planning, and we planned this out a couple years ahead and, figured out when they wanted to retire, when they're going to stop doing their jobs. They did it right, of course, at Medicare age. So that way they could, get that insurance and all that. So, and it's worked out really well for them. So again, if that's something you want to get a little bit more information on, you've been listening to Wealth Creator Radio. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Yeah, this has been Eric Heckman with Wealth Creator Radio. You can listen to us next week, or you can listen anytime where you find podcasts. Just look for Wealth Creator Radio. And again, the number to call, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com. Talk to you next week.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.